AFN Evening News with DeeDee Harper and Army Sergeant Nick Tovo.
Tonight, we head out to the Balkans for a look back and a look ahead at the role of U.S. forces in very unstable territory. Plus, packing up and moving out. 1st Infantry Division soldiers are heading downrange, but first all their equipment has to go. And the lessons learned from one deployment help to prepare for the next.
Your news now.
Good evening to you, and thanks for joining us for the AFN Evening News. I'm DeeDee Harper. Nick Tovo is on assignment tonight. Our top story today: in Bosnia, the United States is cutting back on the number of soldiers serving in stabilization forces. This amid talk that the European Union may soon take over the mission there, and the one in Kosovo as well. AFN correspondent Michelle Michael has more.
Details of the European Union taking over the S4 and the K4, the Kosovo mission, is vague at this point, but for the people in Sarajevo, the impact seems very clear.
This is a common sound in Sarajevo. Shaping copper is a slow process, as is rebuilding this war-torn city under siege in 1992. Images like these remind locals of a time they'd like to forget. But the talk of the European Union possibly taking over the stabilization process here reminds them daily.
From the political view, I would like to see the Americans stay a little bit longer, because this area is still unstable.
In 1995, more than 15,000 soldiers were here. Today, fewer than 1,500 remain, and there's talk the U.S. will downsize even more if the EU takes over.
It's a political decision, and it's yet to be made right now.
A decision is likely to come at the NATO summit in June, something Assad Karizik dreads.
Because Americans make everything good here, and without American is not, we don't have now peace.
And on this street, where you hear sounds of a dying trade, people pray their stabilization won't lose its spark.
The NATO summit is set for June in Istanbul. A decision is expected at that meeting. An S4 spokesman tells us that cutting back the number of American soldiers is a good thing in Bosnia, showing wide improvement so far. And he says reserve forces are ready to react in the event something does happen there. Reporting from the AFN studios, I'm Michelle Michael.
And coming up tomorrow night on the AFN Evening News, an in-depth look at the progress in the northern district of Bosnia in the city of Brčko. Well, as the tensions in the Balkans subside, the soldiers there are handing over their most secure equipment to be used in Iraq, where the need is still quite great. Specialist Jim Kroll has more.
In a combined effort from dozens of soldiers and contractors in Kosovo, the latest M1114 up-armored Humvee is ready for shipping over to Iraq. With things becoming more secure in Kosovo, trading the up-armored vehicles for lighter, less protective Humvees is ideal.
Today we're going to send out the 200 vehicle that our rotation shipped out. The next rotation is going to pick up where we left off.
The turn-in process started back in August 2003. Each vehicle goes through a stringent screening and maintenance process so that they are fully mission capable when they arrive overseas.
And they'll be eventually work their way through Germany to a theater of operations to provide protection to soldiers that need it more than we do.
Equipped with air conditioning and set with a heavy build, the armored vehicles are well suited for Iraq's desert terrain and climate. And to the many team members who made the vehicle turn-in possible, there is no bigger reward than seeing the benefits of their contribution.
Feels real good. It feels real good knowing that they're going to be put to use down there in Iraq, where they really are needed because of the armor on them and the protection that they'll give.
Reporting from Camp Bondsteel, Kosovo, for the 29th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment, I'm Specialist Jim Kroll.
Well, the vehicle transfer will continue with the newly arrived 34th Infantry Division in Kosovo. Equipment from Germany is also now on its way to Iraq. In fact, more than 8,000 pieces of the 1st Infantry Division's supplies are in the process of being transported downrange. 21st Theater Support Command seems to have the whole thing down to a well-oiled assembly line. Specialist Chris Higginbotham has more.
21st TSC is cooperating with the Military Surface Deployment and Distribution Command to get 1st ID's equipment from the fort in Germany through the port in Belgium to the theater in Iraq.
The United States Army has never, since World War II, moved this much equipment at one time. We're talking almost 4 divisions were coming back, redeploying back out, and then all of the folks that are going into replacement. So there's over 40,000 folks moving simultaneous right now at any one time, trying to get in and get out.
Planning for the rotation began months ago. Coordination between several groups is necessary to bring the units from their home bases to the port in an organized fashion to be prepared for shipment to the Gulf. In spite of the challenge, the rotation is going according to plan.
We understand what the plan is, and we're actually being able to execute it as we thought it would go. So this is the most seamless operation I've seen in all the times I've done this.
The equipment gets loaded on supercargo ships docked in Antwerp and is transported to ports in Kuwait. First ID soldiers will meet up with their equipment and proceed to their base of operation in Iraq.
We would not have gotten here without the teamwork from the USER staff, from the 21st TSC, from everybody involved, to include the German soldiers and help that we got there, and the Belgian government on this end, and the Belgian soldiers. The team effort in doing this has just been the best I've ever seen in 27 years.
21st soldiers will remain at the port to support the return of 1st Armored Division as they come home from the war. From Antwerp, Belgium, Specialist Chris Higginbotham, 21st Theater Support Command.
And turning now to some of the latest headlines in the war on terror. Military investigators are looking into the death of an Iraqi man and whether or not an American soldier should be held accountable. The soldier is a member of the 25th Infantry Division. The Iraqi killed was apparently resisting arrest before he was shot during a raid searching for suspected terrorists southwest of Kirkuk. And a new poll finds that Americans are evenly split on whether they think the war in Iraq increased the global threat of terrorism. The Ipsos poll finds a majority of those living in 5 major European countries, plus Canada and Mexico, think that the war has actually made things worse. As soldiers arrive in Iraq as part of the troop rotation, they are getting right to work, securing the war-torn country and rebuilding from the ground up. Jamie Poston takes us on patrol in Baghdad, where soldiers who've just arrived are jumping right in and embracing their jobs.
Less than a month on the ground in Iraq, and these soldiers are on patrol, keeping a watchful eye for anything out of the ordinary.
You got to keep the safety of the people, especially the Iraqi people in this area.
As they walk the neighborhood streets, they're greeted by Iraqi citizens, both soldier and citizen, more than glad to stop and chat.
You okay?
Patrols are on the lookout for threats to the security of the Iraqi people or the coalition force. For these artillery soldiers, it's a job that's a little different than what they're used to, but one they are prepared for.
How you doing? Hello.
Oh, in our district, it's pretty quiet. It's not like you see on the news. It's mostly smiles, little kids coming up to us, people smiling and waving, chanting "Go USA, down with Saddam." So it's a lot different. It's not violent like you see on the TV out there. Most of it's working with the civilians and helping these people get their government up and running.
Patrolling by foot places these soldiers at greater risk, but it also puts them closer to the people, giving both of them an opportunity to get to know each other.
You been to Maine? Yeah. You been there? Yeah. Where? Oh, Maine. That's where I'm from, Maine.
A part of the job these men cherish most.
They're good people, by and large, and they want their country to be free and they want it to work. But yeah, you know, watching the news reports back home and then seeing what's on the ground here, two vastly different. They definitely contrast. I definitely like working with these people here.
Army officials say that for the near future, patrols will continue, and they hope the partnership between soldier and citizen continues as well.
You have a good day.
Jamie Poston, Baghdad, Iraq.
And the 173rd Airborne Brigade is just getting back from Operation Iraqi Freedom. As the troops go through their reintegration, family readiness group leaders are training for future deployments. Army Sergeant Luke Wack has more.
Strong family readiness groups help our Sky soldiers and their families be successful. To ensure continued success, the 22nd Area Support Group sponsors Army Family Team Building, or AFTB training, by bringing successful trainers from throughout Europe to Vicenza to train local FRG leaders. Army Family Team Building trainers teach family readiness group leaders how to build the strong teams needed to support soldiers during a deployment.
Army Family Team Building is a great program that's available either through ACS or through Levels 1 or Levels 2 online. It's a great way to increase the community growing together, increase the family readiness, and it's a program that is out there, and we need to promote it to get our families together and make the community stronger.
When asked why she wanted to complete AFTB training, Vicenza FRG leader Jessica Workman replied,
"To help contribute to the Vicenza community and to contribute and learn more for my FRG group."
The 22nd Area Support Group Commander, Colonel Donald Drummer, presented certificates to the class.
So here's that one opportunity to get a structured focus to think through some of those processes that you already have experience in. And then you move from that to something more refined, and then you can teach others. And that's where we succeed.
These trained FRG leaders will take what they've learned and use it to build stronger family readiness groups to better support our soldiers. Sergeant Luke Weck, AFN News.
And for more information about Army Family Team Building, just log on to this website. It's a difficult one, so you might want to write it down. ArmyFamilyTeamBuilding.org. Very easy to remember, don't you think? Well, with most of the 1st Infantry Division deployed, it becomes vital for everyone in the rear to take up the slack and grow professionally. Army Sergeant Adam Shaw tells us how soldiers in Würzburg are working together to enrich their professional skills.
But they told me at the last minute.
It's all about people in the 235th Base Support Battalion. The Equal Employment Office held an individual developmental workshop on Barton Barracks in Ansbach. The workshop teaches soldiers and civilians about restored leave, out processing, and performance appraisals.
It's typical for soldiers to know this information, but now we're going to focus this on civilians so that they know the processes and procedures.
These skills are critical for the development of employees who affect the mission of the 235th BSB. This class is part of a series of classes designed to better prepare supervisors with their daily mission. From Ansbach, Germany, Army Sergeant Adam Shaw, AFN News.
Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll have the latest on your weather forecast with Airman First Class Ben Lee. Plus, we're going to take to the skies above the UK for a look at some major changes at RAF Mildenhall and Fairford. Stick around.
There's a family readiness group in your community where people stand ready to help. They're people just like you. Some are new to the military, some are veterans with years of experience. They're all part of your Army family. They attend family readiness groups to learn, contribute, and meet people in their community. Contact your unit, find out when their FRG meets, get involved. Discover family readiness groups. Discover your Army family.
Well, the weather around here has just been crazy. We've had a little bit of everything over the last few days. So let's go ahead and check in with Airman First Class Ben Lee and see how things are looking for the next couple of days.
Thank you. Let's take a look at the forecast for the next couple of days. Strong high pressure in the East Atlantic is going to continue to push in, deflecting all systems to the south or the north. What we're going to see with the system from the south is lots of wet, unsettled weather, but warmer temperatures moving in from the southwest. A little further to the east, the strong high pressure over Scandinavia is deflecting all systems to the east and riding up it. The stationary boundary is weakening significantly, and further to the south, this little wave that genned up is going to push even further to the south. Now, as we move further to the east, we're going to see the strong, broad area of low pressure extending all the way from the south up to the north is going to become somewhat re-energized when it hits the cold air in Russia, although for now we're going to see isolated, spotty rain showers in the north, further to the south, a broad area of warm rain. Looking at tomorrow, we can see this low continues to move further to the east, and we're going to see a lot more organization to the system. More and more snow and freezing precipitation in the north, further to the south, more thunderstorm activity in Turkey, even further to the south, bringing in some cloudiness and thunderstorms into Iraq. Moving back over to the west, this high pressure we were talking about over Scandinavia has now moved a little bit further to the south, clearing out Central Europe even more, while this other high in the East Atlantic is now moving even further into the west, pushing all these systems to the north, way far out of our area of concern, not even a player anymore. And in the south, this low is going to just track into Spain, bring in some wet, unsettled weather, but not be much of a player for most of our areas of concern. Let's look at our low temperatures. 30s throughout the United Kingdom, 40s in the Iberian Peninsula, 20s to lower 30s in Central Europe, 30s in the Po Valley, 30s and 40s in the south of Italy, 20s throughout the cold Balkans, We got 40s in the coastal portions of Turkey, 30s in the mountains. Let's look at our high temperatures. Looking at 50s along the coast, 30s in the Balkans, 50s in the south, 40s in the Po Valley, 30s to upper 40s, upper 50s in Central Europe, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if it got pretty warm today. 40s throughout the United Kingdom and 60s in the south of Spain. That's your weather for the next couple of days. Now back to the news.
All right, thanks, Ben. Well, the skies over RAF Mildenhall in the United Kingdom will be clear for the next 6 months. Clear of aircraft, that is, as the 100th Air Refueling Wing will temporarily operate its KC-135 Stratotankers from RAF Fairford. Air Force Sergeant Michelle Cruz was on one of the first KC-135s to arrive at Fairford and explains the reasons behind this move.
Europe's only tanker task force with fuel tanks large enough to take them to most any destination rarely needs to deploy. So why the move? For the first time in 22 years, the runway at Mildenhall is being resurfaced.
We're going to accomplish 23 major projects on the airfield at the same time, roughly $17+ million worth of construction. And so it's just important that we move the entire operation, minus the Special Operations Group helicopter operations, out of RAF Mildenhall to allow the Civil Engineering Squadron and the Mission Support Group access to the entire airfield.
In the interim, 14 KC-135s will fly out of Fairford, a base with no permanently assigned aircraft.
We're going to operate business as usual. We're not going to miss any receivers. The ops tempo will remain as high as it's always been, but you get to do it from a different location.
For the pilots, the move presents a few challenges.
Just getting used to the new environment. There's a challenging airspace to deal with there, being closer to some of the London corridors.
This new location is just a few hours southwest of Mildenhall and will deploy more than 600 airmen who will provide operational support for the refueling teams.
Technically it's a deployment, but it's not because we're still so close to home, so we'll still have family members, loved ones within arm's reach.
The relocation will last throughout the summer, with work on the airfield at Mildenhall set to be completed by the end of August. This resurfacing project is being paid in large part by NATO, who the refuelers support, with an area of responsibility that stretches from the northern tip of Norway to the southern tip of Africa and all of Russia.
And one has disconnect, you're clear to left observation.
Staff Sergeant Michelle Cruz, Air Force News, RAF Fairford in the United Kingdom.
He's backing away, he's well clear and he's rolling left.
Well, in the training for the possibility of chemical and biological hazards, hearing MOP 4 over the intercom, or Mission-Oriented Protective Posture 4, is something many airmen dread. Airman First Class David Larva explains how civil engineering soldiers determine when it's safe to lower the MOP level.
Words can't express the relief of removing a gas mask. But before airmen can remove their mask, the command post must ensure it's safe. This is why CE has made preparations around base to monitor if and when chemicals are in the air.
We set up NBC recon routes, and on the recon routes we go around and we have different chemical detectors that are up on this base and set around at different points. We send out NBC recon teams. They go out and check the different chemical detectors for contamination and then report it back to the NBC cell. Negative.
So next time you're waiting to hear MOP Level 2 from the giant voice, remember that first CE has to drive around and make sure it's safe. Airman First Class David Larva, Air Force News, Incirlik Air Base, Turkey.
And we have a quick update for you on election 2004. President Bush, on a California fundraising swing, has taken his first swings at Democrat John Kerry, calling him officially the opponent. The president slammed Kerry as a candidate who would raise taxes and be soft on terrorism. The primary battle is virtually over for Kerry now, but now the fundraising battle is just beginning. President Bush is already $100 million ahead of him and is rolling out the first of his political ads today. Meanwhile, speculation continues on whether John Kerry will ask ex-rival John Edwards to join the Democratic ticket as the vice presidential candidate. Edwards ended his presidential bid yesterday with a pledge to do all he can to help Kerry win the White House. Some of our affiliates will be breaking away for their own local programming at this time, but for the rest of you, today's stateside headlines are coming right up. Plus, I do not like green eggs and ham, and neither does General Fogelsong, apparently, but he does like reading about them to Dodd students. Stay tuned, you're watching the AFN Evening News.
Take an active role in your personal health. The HERE survey provides your primary care manager with information to design your personalized care plan. To receive a HERE survey packet, visit your TRICARE service center.
You probably go through a routine every morning. You get up, get in your car, drive down to the exchange, commissary, shopette, or wherever, just get your Stars and Stripes. But did you know? You don't have to do that anymore. Stars and Stripes delivers to your door. Think of it this way. You don't have to waste gas getting the paper. Okay, it's not exactly like having it delivered to your hands, but you get it. Stars and Stripes Home Delivery. For more information, log on to www.stripes.com.
The controversy over same-sex weddings has moved into Oregon now. That story tops our look at today's stateside news. Scores of newlyweds are celebrating in Portland, Oregon, where county administrators have issued licenses to gay couples for the first time after deciding that state law allows the same-sex unions. In an effort to clean up the public airwaves, a House committee has voted to increase the fines imposed on broadcasters for airing indecent material. The penalty will go from $27,500 to $500,000. And there are now 2 bosses at the Magic Kingdom instead of 1. Former Senator George Mitchell has been tapped to serve as chairman of the board at Disney. Shareholders voted their dissatisfaction with Michael Eisner, but let him keep his second job as CEO. And a federal report shows that airport screeners have the highest rate of injury and illness among federal employees. Common injuries include back strain, bruises, and even cuts from reaching into bags to search for sharp objects. Well, school kids throughout the states are celebrating reading with a renewed passion this week while marking Dr. Seuss's 100th birthday. Dodd students throughout Europe also joined in the festivities with guest readers and special reading challenges. Air Force Sergeant John Somheil takes us to Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, where the kids started their morning off with a little green eggs and ham.
Go ahead and get it out, and you can be looking at it.
Read Across America stresses the importance of reading, and even though some kids can't fathom the idea, that reading can be fun. It is America's largest reading event and commemorates America's favorite children's author, Dr. Seuss. It's held every year on his birthday.
We made reading so much fun, and for a lot of students, just having that fun and that exposure to reading, and for a lot of children, the first books that they're exposed to are Dr. Seuss books. So why not celebrate on such a fun day?
Guest readers share their favorite books with the kids throughout the day, and yes, most of them were by Dr. Seuss. Most of the volunteer readers are parents, plus a few special guests took their turn in the big chair.
Actually, because I've been an avid reader all my life to start off with, so I really believe that reading is an important foundational skill.
The USAFE commander told the class how reading introduced him to 2 of his favorite interests. Then he and his wife shared a Seuss favorite of their own.
I do not like them, Sam, I am. I do not like green eggs and ham.
My young son, when I was in graduate school years ago, fell in love with me reading to him. And every night he would come in and ask me to read a particular book to him, and this turned out to be the book that he asked that I read to him, green eggs and ham.
I could not, would not on a boat.
This is the 7th annual Read Across America and Dr. Seuss's 100th birthday. Ramstein will celebrate his birthday and reading all week. Staff Sergeant John Somheil, Air Force News, Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
I'm thinking of a situation.
Well, Read Across America Day began in 1998 as a way to get kids excited about reading, and it's marked each year on or near Dr. Seuss's birthday. A few of our AFN affiliates are going to take off and have their own local programming at this time, but for the rest of you, stick around. We're going on a religious journey through Turkey when we come back. Stay tuned. You're watching the AFN Evening News.
If you are living here and considering building your family through adoption, there are a few things you should know. Find out how you can change a life forever.
Serving in the Navy comes with many responsibilities, and one of the most important is managing your career. The Navy is making significant changes to career management, and understanding all of those changes can be complex.
Now imagine how confusing this process could be for your spouse. Make a commitment now to get your spouse involved in your career progression. Take the time to share the information readily available on Navy websites to talk about the unique career aspects of your rating, your career path, and your Navy future.
Let your Navy family know that they are key to your success.
Well, most people associate Turkey with the Islamic faith, but Senior Airman Andrew Zavoda takes us on a tour of the country which verifies that it's actually rich with history of many religions.
A city straight out of the pages of the Bible. Incirlik residents followed in the footsteps of Alexander the Great and St. Paul the Apostle as they traveled to the city of Antioch.
Traveled as far as Phoenicia, Cyprus, and Antioch.
Home of the first Christian church, many believe the city is the birthplace of Christianity.
The fact that St. Peter and St. Paul were right here in this church at one time, there's an escape route, a tunnel that goes out of this little cave that they could escape when the persecutors were coming toward them. That's religiously significant.
The chapel-sponsored trip took tourists to many sites along the way, including Snake Castle and Black Castle.
My wife and I came on this trip just to learn about some of the history, the biblical history. There's a lot of it in Turkey, so we wanted to actually be able to touch some of it that we've read about.
And touch it they did. They also explored a Turkish bath from the Ottoman Empire. The day trip added extra flavor with a stop at a local restaurant.
When people come to Incirlik, they'll be here for 15 months, perhaps 2 years. It would be a shame for them not to experience the tremendously rich religious spots, spiritual spots of this country.
Incirlik residents can explore more of Turkey's religious sites during monthly tours with the chapel.
That was Senior Airman Andrew Zavoda reporting. So you're in the shower, you reach for the soap, you lather up, but do you ever really think about the work that went into making that soap? Probably not. Army Sergeant Emily Adams introduces us to a woman whose hobby is making all natural soaps in her kitchen and shows us that it is no small task to keep you clean.
Soap time.
Brandy transforms her kitchen into a home chemistry lab of sorts. She's always enjoyed creating arts and crafts, but her previous hobbies were perhaps less extensive than preparing scented soaps from scratch.
I started doing craft flowers, all the silk flowers in the craft shows, and then I decided I wanted to add something new to it, so I thought soaps and bath salts, lip balm, all that would go with it great.
Soap making is an exact science.
So we're pouring 907.2 grams of water.
It involves measuring, weighing, and pouring the perfect amount of each ingredient. If one bit of the mixture is off by a fraction of a gram, the whole batch will be ruined and her time wasted. It takes 3 hours just to create the mix.
It's a big process. You have to weigh everything and melt all the oils and then blend the lime water because you can't make soap without the lime water. Add them, blend it, and then you have to let it sit for 24 hours. Once you pour it, you cut it for another 2 hours, roll balls, and then you have to let it sit for 6 weeks.
In fact, the only spare time Brandy has to create her scented delights cuts into her sleep schedule. She's sometimes up nearly all night perfecting her concoctions.
I have a child, so I have to stay up late hours to do it. And just be careful with some of the products and stuff that I'm using so I don't get burnt. But the hardest part would be staying up late doing it.
This hobby forces Brandy to think about upcoming holidays long before they arrive.
I start about 3-4 months in advance. I have a lot of products that I do, so I have to get on the ball and get them done.
Each batch of Brandy's soap contains all natural ingredients that are great for the skin. She admits she becomes frustrated sometimes at how tedious the process is, but that the end result is worth the effort.
It's really fun. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of work. People don't realize how much work it is, but it is a lot of work when the final product